Hey, how's it going there? This is Dragonfire, and I am coming back with another review. This time we are looking at the movie Freddy vs. Jason. Yes, Freddy vs. Jason. This is the only copy I have of the movie with the eight movie box set for the Friday the 13th movie, or sorry, for the Nightmare on Elm Street movies. And you can see a little picture of Freddy vs. Jason there, and Freddy vs. Jason listed on the back cover there. This is the only physical copy I have for Freddy vs. Jason. But um, let's talk about where it sits in each franchise. So we have the uh, Friday the 13th franchise and the Nightmare on Elm Street franchise. And for this franchise, let's talk about Nightmare first. So Nightmare has two films that are out of continuity, which are Wes Craven's New Nightmare and the A Nightmare on Elm Street remake from 2010. Those films are out of continuity from the rest of the series. So you have the main series of A Nightmare on Elm Street, the original one from 1984, followed by its sequel, Part 2, Freddy's Revenge, Part 3, The Dream Warriors, Part 4, The Dream Master, Part 5, The Dream Child, and then the sixth movie, Freddy's Dead, The Final Nightmare. This Freddy vs. Jason is a sequel to that Freddy's Dead, The Final Nightmare. This Freddy Krueger coming back one more time. He is able to find a way to raise Jason from the dead. I guess, he raises Jason from the dead by impersonating Jason's mother in hell and causing Jason's spirit or whatever to re-enter his body and reanimate him. So Jason comes back. And Freddy is going to use him to spread fear, which is the thing that Freddy needs to come back and re-enter the dream world and start killing people in the dream world again. So, Freddy uses Jason to get back into the nightmares of the kids on Elm Street in the town of Springwood. Okay, that's the basic plot of the movie, but yes, it is the seventh movie in the original continuity for the Nightmare on Elm Street franchise. Now, with the Friday the 13th franchise, it's a little more complicated, but not that much more complicated. It's pretty straightforward. You got one movie that is out of continuity is the remake from, I believe, 2007. Is when they did the Friday the 13th remake. But we have besides the remake, the movies that are in continuity, we have Friday the 13th, then Part 2, Part 3 in 3D, Part 4 is the final chapter, Part 5, A New Beginning, Part 6, Jason Lives, Part 7, The New Blood, Part 8, Jason Takes Manhattan. Then the ninth film in the franchise is Jason Goes to Hell. And the 10th film is Jason X. X, of course, being the Roman numeral for 10. So it's Jason 10 or Friday the 13th Part 10. Jason Goes to Hell is Part 9. And Jason X is Part 10. Okay, so Freddy vs. Jason, logically speaking, takes place in between Jason Goes to Hell and Jason X. It takes place in between those two movies. So it technically, for the Friday the 13th franchise, is a prequel to Jason X. Since Jason X came out first, Freddy vs. Jason is a prequel for that franchise. Still a sequel to every other film, though. So a sequel to Part 9, Jason Goes to Hell. So, um, yeah, Jason is back. We're introduced to some new characters. Um, uh, Freddy, by impersonating Jason's mother, convinces him to go to Springwood, and there in Springwood, um, he kills someone at the old Elm Street house. Apparently, the t- the town of Springwood has recovered from the rather abysmal state that they're in, and Freddy's dead, and they're trying to recover and be a normal town once again. But and it's been working. Freddy has been vanquished for a number of years. However, um, uh, he's back. Freddy's back. So, or they think he's back, especially when the first murder takes place in the old Elm Street house. They say it's got to be him. It's got to be him, and they don't even want to speak his name because they don't want to spread his fear and mention him and all this kind of stuff. They're trying to deal with this impossible situation of recovering this town now that Freddy Krueger is dead and all this kind of stuff. And they think they're blaming Jason's murders on Freddy, thinking Freddy did it. But Freddy is um, uh, gaining his power once people learn his name again and fear him again. And so he's regaining power in the whole thing, and eventually he is able to get one kill in the dream world, which results in the death of the person in the real world. And then after that kill, Jason steals a kill from him. He wanted a kill that he wanted to be his own kill. And so it's kind of like, oh man, now we're being killed in the real world, we're being killed in the dream world, what's going on here? But Freddy sucks Jason, puts Jason to sleep, puts him back into the dream world in order to kill him in the dream world, saying, because the typical rule of the Nightmare on Elm Street series, if you kill somebody in the dream world, they die in the real world. So that's Freddy's plan, is to fight him on his own turf and kill Jason in the dream world, which will then allow Jason to continue killing people. It will allow Freddy to continue killing people in their sleep. And so now that he has the fear back and he's powerful enough again, he can start. He's haunting people's dreams again, but he has to get rid of Jason because Jason is still killing people in the real world sometimes before Freddy can get to them. So in order to stop this, he has to take out Jason. So they fight in the dream world. One aspect that a lot of people criticize about this movie is that when they're that Jason is afraid of water, and they say Jason's never been afraid of water before. We've seen, Jason go in the water plenty of times. But kind of in defense of this movie, I will point out that he's only afraid of water when he's in the dream world. He doesn't seem that same fear of water in the real world. It's only in the dream world. It's like tapping into his subconscious because of the incident where he either drowned or almost drowned, depending on which version of the story you want to go with, which version you think makes more sense. Did Jason actually drown back in 1957 or whatever it was? Yeah, I think it was 57. Did he actually drown, or did he really drown? But either way, or did he really drown, or did he almost drown, is the question. Either way, it kind of makes sense that on a subconscious level he would have some sort of fear of water, even if he didn't completely drown, if he only almost drowned and then was able to get out of it somehow. But so I can defend the movie on that level, that in the dream world Jason has a psychological reaction to water, even if Jason in the real world is not afraid of water. Um, so yeah, they fight in the dream world. Jason or Freddy almost figures out how to kill Jason. It seems like in the dream world he's getting real close to figuring out how to kill Jason in the dream world when they pull him out into the real world. And once Freddy realizes he's in the real world, now he has to fight Jason on Jason's ground, right? So, uh, yeah, uh, the characters in this movie who aren't the best characters in the world, but probably not also the worst. In these two franchises have had some movies with some pretty terrible characters and some pretty terrible acting. Both of these franchises, so yeah, Freddy versus Jason is probably not the worst of the bunch, but definitely not the best either. Um, but they kind of figure out what's going on. They figure out that they have to fight both Jason and Freddy, and basically come up with a plan to pit the two against each other in the real world. And they figured that the two monsters maybe would fight and both kind of destroy each other, and maybe that would help them live. So anyway, uh, they pull Freddy out into the real world, and then we get our world fight between Freddy and Jason, which is pretty awesome. The dream sequence fight between the two is okay, but it's not that fun because Jason. It's pretty well explained in this movie that Freddy kills through fear, and Freddy can't find anything that Jason is really afraid of, so he has to keep doing these different dream things to Jason to try to figure out how to kill Jason in the dream world, and he's not able to do so until the water thing. Like I said, he almost kills Jason once he figures out Jason's kind of subconscious fear of water, and that's how Freddy gets the upper hand in the dream world. But in the real world, of course, now Jason has the home field advantage. Before in the dream world, Freddy had the home court advantage. Now, Jason has the home court advantage. As I'm filming this right now, the NBA Finals are going on, and I didn't. I think there was a game today. I didn't watch game 2. I think was today, but I watched game 1 already. And oh no, I don't want the Nuggets to win. Please, Miami, make a comeback. Come on, Miami, make a comeback. Don't let the Nuggets win. Don't let the Nuggets win. Anyway, um, Freddy and Jason, they're fighting it out in the real world now. Now Jason has the home field advantage out in the real world, and it's a pretty big over the top fight scene, and it's definitely the best part of the movie. You want to see these characters fighting each other. There are several dream sequences throughout the movie, particularly before Freddy is pulled into the real world. It gives the movie a Nightmare on Elm Street type feel. Even from the very beginning of the movie, it's Freddy going to Springwood, Jason going to Springwood. It's not Freddy coming to Crystal Lake. It's Jason going to Springwood. So he's going to Freddy's home area, if you will, and stirring up. So a lot of people, I think, have commented that it feels more like a Nightmare on Elm Street movie than a Friday the 13th movie, and I can kind of get that vibe from the movie. But Jason gets nearly all the kills in this one. I think Freddy has one kill in the main timeline of the movie, and then it's indicated that he killed some people in some flashback scenes, one or two, one or two people in flash. I think two people in flashback scenes. It's indicated Freddy is already killed that tie into the plot of this movie before the town was able to vanquish him. So, um, that's if Jason gets the majority of the kills in the movie, so it's pretty cool. Yeah, and Jason, let's be honest, Jason wins the fight between Freddy and Jason in the end eventually. Um, uh, I mean, Jason leaves the uh, lake at the very end with Freddy's severed head, and he's toting it around maybe because Freddy's tricked him into thinking that he's his mom again, like it's Pamela Voorhees' head that he's carrying around here, or at least he thinks he is. He's carrying Freddy's head instead. I know that the people who made the movie said that they intended for it to be a draw, but is it really a draw when um I mean, if there wasn't that last scene of Jason walking out of the lake, maybe it would be more of a draw. Because right when you think Freddy's about to kill the main characters, he reaches up and Jason stops him, but then they both fall into the lake. So it's like almost like they're both dead. But um, uh, with that last scene of Jason walking out of the water with Freddy's head, even if Freddy is controlling Jason somehow, like he winks at the camera, like, yeah, I'm controlling Jason. It doesn't matter. Jason looks like the victor in that fight. Uh, yeah, and there are some really cool moments. All the different stuff that happens during the fight between the two. Um, it's a big over the top fight scene, but that's cool. That's what it should be, a big over the top fight scene with Freddy and Jason fighting each other. And yeah, I mean it's uh yeah. But one moment I really wanted to mention was the moment where towards the end of the fight, initially Jason stabs, or sorry, Freddy stabs Jason with his own machete. I thought that that's a cool moment, and then it's paralleled just a few minutes later um, with Jason using Freddy's own arm with the glove still attached at the end, the finger knife glove, to stab Freddy. So Jason, they each use the other's weapon to stab each other. I think is a pretty neat concept of Freddy using the machete and Jason using the finger knife glove with the severed arm, the severed arm of Freddy Krueger. I think it's a pretty cool concept. But yeah, it's a big over the top fight scene between the two, and it's really just fun to watch these characters go at each other and get to fight each other. And I think it delivered on what people want to see in the movie, is just to see these two characters fight each other, and they get to see that at the end of the movie. Um, yeah, I think Freddy vs. Jason is a really cool movie. People criticize it for its characters not being that great or not being great actors in it, but all the movie, like so many movies in this genre, that can be said for, and including in these two particular franchises, the Nightmare on Elm Street franchise and the Friday the 13th franchise, both have had movies with really poorly written characters or really bad actors playing them, or both. So I don't think it's the worst in the franchise. I um I just like the over the top action and the fighting and stuff. So those are my thoughts on Freddy versus Jason. Um, I think it's a really fun movie. with these versus movies, they typically tend to go in alphabetical order, so they put Freddy's name first, which is, um, fine. But I think Jason is the winner of the fight overall. Um, it's that last scene where he emerges from the lake that really makes him the winner, in my opinion. Anyway, what do you think of Freddy vs. Jason? Is it one of your favorites? Did it live up to the hype? Did you get to see, what you wanted to see? I will say one. I want to say one last thing I forgot to mention. So of course, Freddy is iconic, right? Um, Iconically played by Robert Englund, and that's something that the Nightmare fans could really grab onto. Now, you had, for the first 6 films in the Friday franchise, you had a different actor playing Jason every single time. Then in part 7, you got Kane Hodder playing him for the first time. So the 7th actor to play Jason, or well, I don't want to get into debate, but basically the 7th actor to play Jason, or a copycat or whatever. But then you had Kane Hodder return for part 8, and then Goes to Hell, which is part 9, and then Jason X, part 10. So you'd had Kane Hodder playing 4 times in a row. So I can understand the frustration, because I think maybe for fans of the Friday the 13th franchise finally found their Jason, their guy who represent who Jason was, because Robert Englund gave such a personality to Freddy Krueger and was so consistent with that I understand that fans want to see the guy who had become like the definitive Jason and played him for the last 4 movies in a row return for this 5th movie, and that didn't happen. And I can understand the frustration of the fans that they didn't get to see Kane Hodder play Jason in Freddy vs. Jason. So and I'm frustrated with that too, because I think that Kane Hodder had a presence about him when he played the character, even though they totally changed his makeup for each of the 4 films that he was in. It didn't look like the same Jason. It never looks like the same Jason. Every time he takes his mask off, he's got a different face. But there was something about the presence of Kane Hodder as an actor the 4 times we got to see him in the role, the way he moved with his body. You could tell stuff with body language. And so I really like Kane Hodder as Jason. And unfortunately, he did not return for this movie. We wanted to see the definitive Jason, the only actor to play him more than once, come and take on Freddy Krueger, Robert Englund as Freddy Krueger. But unfortunately, we didn't get that. Okay, this time let's wrap it up for real. All right, that's my thoughts on Freddy vs. Jason. And leave some comments. Please like, share, and subscribe this video. God bless everybody. Dragonfire out.